Thank you, Senator King.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Speaks-Backman, I want to talk about permitting, and we're talking about federal permitting and BLM and leasing and all of that. But a lot of the issues in energy development are local permitting, state permitting. And one of my observations is that often you'll have a project such as the ones you sponsor that have a global benefit but a local impact. The strategy that, I don't know if you're aware, but prior to my life here, I was an energy developer in hydro, biomass, wind power conservation. We tried to provide a specific local benefit to the people who bear the impact of the project. Talk to me about that concept.
Absolutely. As part of our early and often strategy for local interaction and community engagement, we very much look for not only how this project should be sited or how this project should be built, but what are the needs of the community, either in conjunction with the objectives of the project itself, or what do the communities need that are not necessarily related to the energy project or the transmission project that we're building. And so we go through a very rigorous process of first planning community engagement and then executing on that community engagement.
And part of that is, as you say, determining what the community needs and if the project can meet those needs. I think that's an important concept, because saying this is going to benefit the earth doesn't help a resident of a community that's going to see or experience the project. I just want to emphasize something you talked with Senator Cortez Masto about, and that is the lack of staff. And that's throughout this process, whether it's at the state level, the national level, and a lot of these delays, they're not people who are sitting on their hands, there's just too much. And I take it you're nodding, but the record won't show you're nodding. I take it you agree.
I agree 1,000%. I have had the privilege to work with federal employees at the Department of Energy in my past, and I have never seen a harder working set of folks to work toward the mission of the agency itself. And I think that's across all of government. This is why one of the primary issues for us, or the priorities for us when it comes to permitting, is really making sure that these folks are well-staffed and consistently staffed.
Particularly if you're going to shorten deadlines.
Absolutely, or we're going to increase the scope. So as they have to do more work, we've got to make sure that on a steady basis, so they're not, the few folks that are there in the office aren't spending time training the new folks coming in, right? We need to keep a consistent level of staffing.
Let me change the subject slightly, and Mr. Melito, you may want to comment on this. It's always bothered me that in NEPA and other kinds of environmental analysis, you're looking at the impact of the project, but there's no analysis of the benefit, the environmental benefit of the project. You can have a project with 100 units of environmental benefit and 8 units of detriment, but that's all the focus. Do you think it would be useful, important, and good policy to have NEPA and the other environmental laws that assess impact to assess the positive virtues of the project as against any detriment?
Absolutely. As a former state regulator as well, it is the net benefits that really are what count. You have to take a look at both sides of the ledger, but the net benefits really are something that you need to take a look at. It's not just what the impact is, but what are the positive outputs.
Mr. Melito, do you agree?
Oh, absolutely. There are so many factors that should be considered in a decision like this: energy affordability, national security, employment. We oftentimes have the ability.
The world requires trade-offs, does it not?
Absolutely. You need to balance all the factors and determine the best approach to moving forward with a project based on consideration of those factors.
Mr. Obermuller, a question. We talked a lot about litigation. One of the things that was in discussion last year about these permitting reform proposals was shortening the period of the statute of limitations on these actions. Do litigants wait out the statute of limitations and then file at the end, therefore extending the period even further? What's your view on shortening the statute of limitations on appeals of administrative action?
Senator, thank you for the question. I certainly support shortening the statute of limitations. Bring that action closer to the final decision of the federal agency.
So we're not talking about keeping people out of court. We're just saying you can't sit on your rights.
That's correct.
And what about some provision to move these cases to an accelerated docket in the court system?
Senator, any possibility of accelerating these decisions would help with the predictability question I talked about before, as would the ability to have these cases heard in the places where the project actually takes place.
So you're talking about geographic as well as temporal.
That's right.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.